Coco, how do you blend precision and aggression in your game?
I blend precision and aggression by just paying attention to all the details around me, and also... Everyone, I want to talk to you about RISE, an initiative of Smith's Futures and the Rose Trust. RISE is a program that supports 15 to 17-year-olds with benefits ranging from... Today have been pretty great crowds, and just, I never thought, I would get like the Coco chant kind of anywhere except the US, but the fact that it's happening...
What is up, Chatterbox fam? Welcome back to the channel where we spill the absolute hottest, most unfiltered tea in the sports and entertainment world. And today, we have got something that is going to make your jaw drop, your stomach turn, and your respect for Coco Gauff skyrocket to levels you did not even think were possible. Today we are diving deep into a scandal that has been festering, quite literally, in plain sight on your television screens for decades. A dirty little secret that the tennis world has been hoping you were too distracted by the scoreboard to notice. Have you ever been sitting on your couch, snacks in hand, watching a Grand Slam or a Masters event, enjoying what is supposed to be the pinnacle of athletic elegance and grace, when suddenly a multi-millionaire tennis superstar, fresh off a brutal 30-shot rally, aggressively hurls a soaking, dripping, sweat-drenched, snot-soaked towel directly into the bare hands of a 12-year-old volunteer who is just trying to do their job? Have you ever watched that moment and felt a wave of secondhand disgust wash over you? Have you ever thought to yourself, wait a minute, is that even sanitary? Is that even remotely okay? Well, if you have, you are not alone. And today the conversation is finally being dragged into the spotlight where it belongs, because none other than the 21-year-old absolute force of nature, the current world number 3, the incomparable Coco Gauff, is stepping up to the microphone, looking the tennis establishment dead in the eyes, and tearing it a brand new one. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are about to get into the sweaty, dramatic, long overdue, and completely messy history of the tennis towel debate. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to be just as fired up as Coco is.
Compared to 3 years ago, there's definitely a lot more people expecting me to win. But, I think 15-year-old me would be proud that I'm still playing on center court.
To really understand why Coco Gauff's comments are sending shockwaves through the entire tennis world right now, heading into the prestigious Indian Wells tournament in the sweltering California desert, we have to start by painting a very vivid picture of what is actually happening on these courts. Close your eyes for a second and really imagine this. You are 13 years old. You are a total tennis fanatic. You have trained. You have applied. You have been selected to be a ball kid at Indian Wells, which is widely known as the 5th Grand Slam, one of the most celebrated and glamorous tournaments on the entire professional circuit. You are absolutely thrilled. You are out there on the hard courts of the California desert where temperatures routinely soar past 90 degrees Fahrenheit, where the sun beats down relentlessly, where the humidity wraps around you like a wool blanket. You are sprinting baseline to baseline, chasing down stray yellow fuzz balls with the precision and focus of a trained athlete, maintaining absolute laser concentration so that you do not disrupt the flow of a high-stakes, multi-million-dollar match for even one single second. You are invisible by design. You are a ghost in sneakers. And then, a point ends. The umpire signals a break. The player, a professional athlete who earns more in a single tournament than most people earn in a decade, turns toward you. They snap their fingers at you. Maybe they just aggressively jut their chin in your direction. It does not matter. The message is clear. They want their towel. So you hustle over, arms extended, and what happens next is the part that the television cameras have somehow normalized into oblivion. This player, this millionaire, takes that thick cotton towel and buries their entire face in it. They blow their nose into it. They drag it across their neck, their soaking arms, their dripping legs. And then, without so much as a glance in your direction, they fling this heavy, saturated, bacteria-laden rag directly into your bare hands. You catch it. You fold it neatly. And then you stand there, holding another person's concentrated bodily fluids, waiting for them to demand it again 25 seconds later. This is not a horror story. This is a Tuesday at a professional tennis tournament, and it has been going on for decades. So here comes Coco Gauff, and she is done pretending this is normal. In a recent press conference interview ahead of Indian Wells 2026 that has been absolutely exploding across every social media platform from TikTok to Twitter to Instagram to Reddit, Coco sat in front of the cameras and refused to play the diplomatic game that most athletes play when it comes to the uncomfortable traditions of their sport. This young woman, who has already won a U.S. Open title, who has already stared down the greatest players in the world on the biggest stages in the sport.
And with that, the 2024 season comes to an end. Good night.
Looked straight into those cameras and told the truth. She pointed out that ball kids are out there giving everything they have, running, chasing, staying focused through grueling 3- and 4-hour matches in punishing heat, and that in return for their incredible dedication and professionalism, they are handed the soaking, germ-drenched towels of professional athletes and expected to just quietly deal with it. She pressed even harder, noting that many of these kids are teenagers or even younger, and that the physical and hygienic burden being placed on them is genuinely tough and genuinely unfair. She did not stop at just naming the problem either, because Coco Gauff is not the kind of person who complains without coming loaded with solutions. She laid out practical, immediate, totally achievable changes. More frequent towel swaps during matches so kids are not holding the same soggy rag through an entire set. The introduction of disposable towel options that can simply be tossed rather than passed around, or at the absolute bare minimum, providing ball kids with gloves so that handling a stranger's bodily output does not mean direct skin-to-skin contact with whatever virus or bacteria that athlete might be carrying. And the response? It has been seismic. The hashtag #BallKids started trending almost immediately after the interview clips started circulating. Coco Gauff and Indian Wells were right there alongside it. Fans were flooding the comment sections, sharing their own years of built-up frustration, clipping old videos of players behaving absolutely terribly toward these young volunteers, and tagging tennis governing bodies demanding answers. Other players on the tour began cautiously adding their voices to the conversation, tiptoeing into the discourse with supportive comments about player awareness and hygiene standards. The editorial boards of major sports publications started running opinion pieces. Former ball kids started coming forward with stories. It was a full-scale cultural moment, and Coco Gauff lit the match. But here's where the story gets even more maddening, Chatterbox fam, because we actually already solved this problem once. For one brief, glorious window in time, the tennis world accidentally stumbled into doing the right thing. When the COVID-19 pandemic shut everything down in 2020 and professional tennis had to completely overhaul its operations just to exist, tournament organizers woke up and realized that having children catch the heavily breathed on, saliva-rich, sweat-soaked towels of internationally traveling athletes was probably one of the least defensible public health decisions imaginable. I'd like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate it. I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd.
Like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate
But I think it's great for the sport, so keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Tennis.com. Indian Wells, ironically the very tournament at the center of Coco's current crusade, was actually the very first event back in March of 2020 to announce that ball kids would wear gloves and stop touching towels entirely, just days before the pandemic forced the tournament itself to cancel completely. When tennis finally resumed, the sport implemented what can only be described as an absolutely obvious solution, the towel rack. Players were required to walk to the back of the court, retrieve their own towel from a designated hook or box, wipe their own faces, and return it themselves. Revolutionary. Groundbreaking. The concept of a grown adult managing their own personal hygiene items without outsourcing the task to a child. The ball kids were liberated. Fans loved it. Health professionals thought it was long overdue. And for 3 years, from 2020 through the early part of the pandemic recovery era, the sport was cleaner, fairer, and honestly, nobody missed the old system for even a single second. And then, in what can only be described as a catastrophic, cowardly betrayal, the ATP Tour, the governing body for men's professional tennis, decided in July of 2024 to rip out those towel racks and throw the ball kids back into the deep end. The reason? The serve clock. Tennis executives had become absolutely obsessed with the idea of speeding up the game to hold the attention of modern television audiences who apparently cannot handle a player taking more than 25 seconds between points. They introduced an automated shot clock, and players immediately started complaining that walking 10 feet to the back of the court to grab their own towel was eating into their recovery time. These are professional athletes who spend thousands of hours training their bodies to perform at superhuman levels, and they were arguing that a 10-foot walk was too much to ask. The ADP, rather than showing even the slightest spine, caved completely. They ruled that ball kids would return to towel duty so that the players could shave a few extra seconds off the broadcast. The WTA, the women's tour, got pulled into similar protocols at joint events. And just like that, 3 years of progress was wiped out because some millionaires did not want to take a short stroll. The fan backlash was immediate and brutal. Tennis forums erupted. Journalists wrote scathing pieces. And the ADP just quietly moved on, hoping everyone would forget. They did not forget. Because the internet never forgets, and neither do the ball kids who have to live with the consequences of that decision every single tournament. And now, because the governing bodies refuse to listen to common sense and basic human decency, Coco Gauff has been forced to use her star power to drag this conversation back into the headlines in 2026. And she is doing it at the perfect moment, at the perfect tournament, aimed directly at the people with the power and the money to fix it. Let's talk for a moment about the absolute hall of shame that is the history of professional tennis players treating ball kids like personal servants when it comes to these towels, because the receipts are extensive and they are damning. The most notorious incident, the one that still makes fans cringe to this day, is the complete and utter meltdown by Fernando Verdasco at the Shenzhen Open in 2018. Verdasco was caught on camera in high definition for the entire sporting world to witness, screaming and aggressively gesturing at a ball boy because the child was not running fast enough to deliver his towel during a changeover. A grown man, a professional athlete, losing his composure and berating a teenager over a towel retrieval time that was probably measured in seconds. The backlash was so swift and so severe that even Judy Murray, mother of multiple Grand Slam champion Andy Murray, jumped onto Twitter to publicly call out the behavior.
I think women's sport in our country is in the strongest position it's ever been in, and the great thing is that there's still improvements to be made. So, it's keep the foot on the
Pointedly asking why the sport simply does not make the players fetch their own towels. It was a question that answered itself, and yet nothing changed. Then there was the incident involving
a code violation, actually. Oh my goodness.
Novak Djokovic at the Miami Open in 2015, where in a moment of match frustration, he turned and appeared to snatch his towel with a level of aggression that visibly startled the ball boy holding it. Djokovic, to his credit, later released a video apology acknowledging that the optics were bad and that he needed to do better.
Do you feel a little fortunate to still be?
Yeah, I apologize for that. Yeah, that was not necessary and in the heat of the moment.
But the fact that a public apology video was necessary over a towel interaction tells you everything you need to know about how normalized this toxic dynamic had become. Nick Kyrgios, who has never met a controversy he could not embrace, picked up an unsportsmanlike conduct warning at the French Open for barking the word towel at a ball kid who had not heard him over crowd noise. Stefanos Tsitsipas generated his own awkward viral moments with confused ball-girl interactions during chaotic towel exchanges at net change breaks. Across the sport, across the generations, the story is the same. Players treating children like their personal staff, and a governing body that shrugged and said this is just how tennis works. This is precisely why what Coco Gauff is doing right now is so much bigger than a press conference soundbite. She is actively, consciously, deliberately rejecting the toxic entitlement culture that generations of tennis players before her helped build and normalize. Coco Gauff grew up as a ball kid's peer. She turned professional at 15. She knows what it feels like to be a young person in the high-pressure, high-stakes environment of professional tennis. She has not forgotten. She is using her top 3 ranking, her U.S. Open champion status, her massive global platform, and her enormous social media following to say clearly and loudly, this sport is better than this. and I am not going to stay quiet just because nobody before me bothered to speak up. The timing of her stand is also absolutely calculated and brilliant. Indian Wells 2026 is operating under the ownership of tech billionaire Larry Ellison, a man who has quite literally transformed this desert tournament into the most lavish stop on the entire professional tour. This is a facility with pristine courts, world-class infrastructure, state-of-the-art player lounges, and a budget that most sporting events can only dream about. If any tournament on the planet can afford to implement better towel logistics, whether that means upgraded courtside rack systems, a stock of sterile disposable options, a supply of protective gloves for ball kids, or even, and let's dream big here, some kind of automated towel dispensing solution, it is Indian Wells. Coco knows exactly where she is standing when she makes these demands. She is standing at the doorstep of a billionaire's tournament and saying, "You have zero excuses." And she is 100% right. The fan response has been nothing short of overwhelming in its support for Coco's position. Across every platform, in every comment section, the verdict is nearly unanimous. People are calling for accountability from the ADP and WTA. Some are jokingly demanding a ball kids union. Though honestly, the more you think about it, the less funny and the more genuinely reasonable that sounds. Others are pulling up the old footage of Diva player moments, creating compilation videos, and letting the internet do what the internet does best, which is hold powerful institutions accountable through relentless, viral, impossible-to-ignore public pressure. They receive modest stipends at best, free tournament merchandise, and the experience of being part of a major professional event. What they should receive in addition to all of that is basic dignity, basic safety, and a working environment that does not require them to handle biohazardous materials with their bare hands. In any other professional context, in any other industry, asking a teenage volunteer to repeatedly catch and hold the sweat-drenched, nasal mucus-containing personal items of adults without any protective equipment would raise immediate red flags with workplace safety authorities. The fact that this has never triggered that kind of scrutiny in professional tennis is a testament to how thoroughly normalized and invisible the practice has become. Coco Gauff just made it visible again, loudly and publicly. And this time the context is different. This time, after the COVID era demonstrated that the practice could be eliminated without any meaningful negative impact on the quality of play, the sport has no defensible argument for maintaining it. The ball kids deserve better. They have always deserved better. And now, because one of the biggest names in the sport decided that being the cool kid in the locker room was less important than being on the right side of basic human decency, there is genuine hope that something might actually change. Whether that change comes as a formal policy revision from the ADP or WTA, a tournament-by-tournament initiative led by venues like Indian Wells, or simply a cultural shift driven by players following Coco's lead and voluntarily adopting better habits around their towels, the needle has moved. It has moved because a 21-year-old woman with a big platform and an even bigger conscience decided to use her voice for something that matters. That is what real leadership looks like in professional sports in 2026, not the brand deals, not the trophy celebrations, not the Instagram highlight reels. It is this. A player using her access to a microphone to say the quiet part out loud and demand better for the people who make the whole show possible, but never get a single mention in the post-match press coverage. Coco Gauff is not just a tennis player. She never has been. She is a force, and this moment, this seemingly small, specific controversy about towels and gloves and ball kids in the California desert, is yet another example of why the sport of tennis is lucky to have her, and why the rest of us should be paying very close attention to everything she does and says, on and off the court, for the next decade and beyond. Now, Chatterbox fam, I have said my piece, and I want to hear yours. Is Coco Gauff 100% right for calling out this gross, long-running tradition? Or do you think catching a sweaty towel is just part of the ball kid job description and people are overreacting? Should the ADP and WTA be forced to implement mandatory hygiene protocols around towels at every event? Should there be actual fines or conduct penalties for players who throw towels aggressively at ball kids? Should the COVID-era towel racks come back permanently and just live at every court at every tournament forever? Drop all of your hottest, spiciest takes in the comments section right now, because I will be down there reading every single one. responding to the wildest opinions. And if this video gets enough love, we are absolutely going to do a follow-up covering the official tournament response and whatever drama unfolds on the courts at Indian Wells this week. Thank you so much for spending your time with us here at Chatterbox. If you got something out of this video, if you learned something new or felt something real, or just enjoyed the ride, please do us a favor and smash that like button because it genuinely makes an enormous difference in helping this channel reach more people and keeps the algorithm sending you the good stuff. If you are not subscribed yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell so you are the first to know every single time we drop new content. And we are dropping new videos all week long with tea so hot it will scald you right through your screen. Until next time, stay curious, stay loud, speak your truth exactly like Coco Gauff does, and I will catch you in the next one. Chatterbox out.